another foundering car, and today we will discuss why the Abarth 595C is such a magnificent piece of kit. Even though it's just brutal in many senses, it will give you a little bit of experience that a Lamborghini gave in the past. So a Lamborghini was rough, with edges, edgy. It had quite a lot of power for the type of car it has. It was too much power for the chassis. Also with the Abarth you have a front wheel drive chassis, so you are easily overpowering that. But it has very wide wheels for its size, like the Lamborghinis also have. And it also has some character, because it is Italian. Sometimes it does not work perfectly, the other times it works a lot better. But it will give you this beautiful sound, it will give you a masculine feel, and that's nice. Of course, some people will say it's a girl type of car because it looks a little bit like that. Of course, it has a lot of masculine accents, but still it's quite round in shapes. But the 911 also has this round shapes. This is also a girl's car. 911 is, in my opinion, one of the best driver's cars there are, and are not to be confused with something else than that. And the Abarth as well, if you look at the A segment, so there's a segment of the VW up, but also for example, an Igo, there is no car that has this type of experience that it oozes to you. So a very nice experience. It is rough around the edge, but that just adds to the appeal, in my opinion. It's also a car that is achievable. That Lamborghini that I mentioned, that has a little bit a similar mindset, is a completely different car. It's a hypercar, sports car, supercar, and this is not, of course, this is just an Hothatch type car, but it is achievable, attainable. It's not too expensive that you can never ever achieve it, and that's makes it, in my opinion, even more attractive, because a lot of people they have posts of supercars above their bed. I always liked Hothatches because I thought I can one day pay for that and be the owner of that. And that's eluding, that's very interesting, that's adding to the appeal, in my opinion. And also the soundtrack, this is a 1.4 turbo. Turbo normally mutes the sound because you have an additional layer that the exhaust gases go through. It's only a 1.4 in dimensions and only a 4-cylinder. But it sounds like that. So it sounds fantastic. Really fantastic. And I hope that a lot of enthusiasts will be able to enjoy these type of cars before it all ends. And we are all going to electric cars, which are very cool in their own rights, but they are not as appealing to the enthusiasts in oral sense. An electric car is just push and go and so much power, which also will be fantastic. But I can tell you this, if the Abarth is now coming as an iteration of the electric Fiat 500, so the new Fiat 500 is sold side by side by the facelifted Fiat 500, which is in its essence started 2007, 2008, so just all those facelifts and iterations upon that. But now they have a completely new platform which is electric, but they will miss this sound, and they can make their own sound, or spacey sound or racy sound as they mentioned, but they will never ever get it as good as this Abarth is with the internal combustion engine. Abarth was a brand that was also known for its development of sports exhausts, race exhausts. That was even before that they had these kits to make the car quicker. First they developed a part of that kit, and being the Abarth exhaust line. And that's the sound makes it very nice. And Abarth also made had a way in the Porsche racing team, and even had his own racing bikes, so motorcycles as well. So they are quite well respected and rounded in many different racing experiences, but they are best known for their cars, of course. Foundry car, out. So another foundry car, a sport hybrid. And if you want to summarize this car, what is it? To say it very easily, Suzuki has managed to make the lightest Suzuki Swift Sport they ever made, even though it has a hybrid system. So they had one Suzuki Swift Sport that was lighted. It was this generation of Suzuki Swift Sport, but without the hybrid system. But the hybrid system also gives you a lot of benefits. And why is that? It's not only the hybrid system that has added a little bit of weight, but also all the additional technological features. If you're listening to this car and you hear a little bit different rumble than on your own Suzuki Swift Sport hybrid, that's because there's an AKS high power spec L exhaust. It's quite subtle in my opinion, but perhaps you will hear it. But to say it bluntly, you get a lot of reinforced the torque of this car. A lot of reinforcement, so the car has become even better. It also a little bit heavier, but not that much, just a few kilograms. And for that you get also a car that's a lot more advanced, so you have all these additional features, but also a car that has better fuel consumption. Tuning potential is almost the same, so especially if you do a tune, you will be quite happy with the Suzuki Swift Sport hybrids. Might be even happier than you would be with your regular Suzuki Swift Sport of this generation, ZC33S. So the spirit of this car is to make a very light, nimble car that has a lot of room, also room inside. You have these windows, so the frontal window is standing quite upright like a Mini Cooper, for example, and it gives you very good visibility around. The pillars are also quite narrow, so it gives you very good visibility. You have 5 doors now, standard, which is a great benefit. And the car is a lot stiffer than its ancestors, so stiffer and lighter and more powerful. So what not to like there? You might say that the last generation Suzuki Swift Sport also came in the latest version as a 136 horsepower variety, 1.6 naturally aspirated, and you might say that it's stronger than the 129 that Suzuki is telling us that their car now has in the hybrid version. And you might be right there, but you are forgetting the torque. The torque is so much more, 235 Nm stock, and also if you look at the real figures, this car produces more horsepower than Suzuki claims it to be, because it's not only has this K14D engine, but also light hybrid, mild hybrid supporting it. And this mild hybrid spirit is very interesting. And why is that? Because it is a mild hybrid in that sense that it does not have the full hybrid functionality, so it cannot drive only on electricity, but it's the lightest version to give you the strongest version of mild hybrids. So a little bit confusing perhaps. So mild hybrids you have as a 12 volt system, 24 volt system and 48 volt system. 48 volt system is in this Suzuki Swift Sport hybrid. But why is it the lightest? Because they coupled it to a small lithium ion battery. So lithium ion is a little bit lighter than other alternative battery systems, and their purpose is that you just recuperate some of your energy. Well, you're not accelerating, but you're decelerating, so you will decelerate easier, especially if you are in gear, of course, otherwise you cannot recuperate the energy. You can also still choose to put it out of gear if you want to toggle along a little bit, glide along if that's what you want without engine braking. But the engine braking is stronger than the non-hybrid version. And that recuperated energy will then be released again if you're toggling along, so you're using a little bit of the RPMs, but it will be maintained to about 5,000 RPM, perhaps even a little bit more. So you have across the whole rev range additional power, a little bit more horsepower, but especially additional torque that you can rely on, which makes it quite a hoot to drive. Also, if you look at the soul of Suzuki, they want to make cars that are really functional in practice. So a lot of cars, they claim to have very good fuel consumption, but in practice a Suzuki might overachieve, whereas other brands might underachieve. So that's a good thing. And why is that? Because they make the cars very light and stiff. So you will not have lots of energy loss there. And with this hybrid system you can still recuperate, so you will have less strain on the brakes because your engine braking is stronger. You will have less strain on the engine because you get support from this electrical engine system. And you have a car that, as a result, is a lot more frugal. So a lot is perhaps a little bit an overestimation, but it could be up to 10% more frugal in my estimation. And also you will have less wear and tear on your drive system because you don't have to brake, for example, that hard. Otherwise, if you're going for a tune, you will have a more reinforced gearbox to begin with, which is a great benefit in my opinion. And you will also have a system that has all the updated functionality. So for example, rear view camera, you have a digital speedometer also as an option. You have cruise control, active lane keeping assist. It can even have this cruise control that is anticipated, so it's how do you say this? Adaptive cruise control. But I like the most the function that you have a limit. So for example, if you want to set your limit at 110 kilometers an hour, it won't go faster than 110 kilometers an hour, which can be a big benefit. And why is that a benefit over, for example, the functionality of adaptive cruise control? Adaptive cruise control does a lot more work for you. So even if you put an adaptive cruise control at 110, if you're not accelerating, it will push itself back to that speed again. So it might be wasting gasoline, but it will brake. If it sees another car in front of you, it will try to brake for it to decrease the chance of an accident. And that's a benefit. It is active security, of course, but also a downfall. And why is that? Because a lot of time you're just closing the gap and it will brake, so it will put additional strain on your brakes. So wear and tear will be a little bit higher, but also you will have to accelerate again to that speed because you as a driver would not have braked yet. So it's quite a guardian angel, so to say. So it's quite conservative in when to brake and when to hold the line and not brake yet. So that's, in my opinion, the reason why I like this limit function on average. So not always. If you really are tired or something like that, you would love this functionality because you have both the functionality in this car, almost self-driving. I will explain. So you have adaptive cruise control, which keeps you at a certain speed that you want to. So if there is traffic in front of you, it will brake again. If traffic is dispersing, you can again accelerate and it will do that for you. So the front traveling it will help you with. So and then you have this lane keeping assist, and the lane keeping assist will keep your car between the lines. So even in corners it will try to keep between the lines. So you will still need to touch the steering wheel now and then, or keep your hands around it gently, but it will drive you home, especially if you don't have to change lanes all the time, quite easily, and could be very beneficial, especially if you're tired. This is a good thing to take into consideration. An additional feature that is very interesting for those that like self-driving technology. So I had the Tesla Model S 90D, so quite a lot of performance, double engine, and also I ticked the box for autopilot, which is a great benefit because Tesla had a lot of gains there. But in my personal experiences, I thought that autopilot was quite faulted. And why, you might ask? Well, it would brake quite conservatively because it doesn't want to get into an accident, which can be a good thing. But for example, if some white stuff was blown over the street, it might break, and that would be a very bad thing if there are cars close behind you which don't see that plastic white thing to be a big obstacle, and you can just proceed at your speed. But if your car is braking a lot, this is not a good thing, of course, because they can have the experience of tail ending you, which would be very bad. Another thing to consider is that you had self-driving functionality, they said, but the drawback is that you still have to put your hands on the steering wheel, so you're not going to lose a lot of this self-driving functionality when you pick the Suzuki Swift Sport Hybrid over the generation, and I had the 2017 model year Model S 90D with autopilot installed. So please take that into consideration, that you get for a car that is roughly a quarter of the price as the other car that I had, almost the same functionality, and in some senses perhaps even more functionality. And I really hope that this car, if you're a car driving enthusiast, will bring pleasure to you. And why do I think it will bring a lot of pleasure to you? If you compare it to the Tesla Model S, which is more of a Grand Tour executive type of car, this car of course is faster, more luxurious, but not that much added functionality, as I just explained. But this car is also a car that costs a lot more, so you will be paying a big price for that added functionality and that added presence. But it's also a car that is a lot longer, so you will have more trouble parking it. It might have all the parking stuff into it, but this is easier to park. Why? It's smaller, and you still have that rearward facing camera which helps you out, and you have these sensors. So even though it has more technology, the Tesla Model S was not easier to park. And then if you look at day-to-day driving, because it has so much power and so much ability, the Tesla Model S, you will oftentimes only use a tiny bit of the performance envelope that is present, because you have rules to attend to, the busy traffic, etc. It could accelerate in about 4 seconds to 100 kilometers an hour, and this is roughly half the accelerating promises. If you tune it, you will get closer to that. I think with a tune you will be looking at 6.6 seconds to 100 kilometers an hour. I think the Tesla Model S would be about 4.4 seconds to 100 kilometers an hour, perhaps 4.2, something like that. So roughly you have to, with a stage 1 Suzuki Swift Sport Hybrid, you have approximately 50% more of the time to get to the same acceleration at 100 kilometers an hour. But turn it around. If you have a car that you can use for a higher percentage of its performance envelope a lot more of the time, you will often enjoy this more. There might be places that you will enjoy the Tesla Model S because the Suzuki Swift Sport might be lacking, but with the stage 1 tune, I think you will enjoy it so much more because it's extremely flickable. The Tesla Model S is very stable, it is 4-wheel drive, so no drama there. This will bring a lot more drama. If you accelerate hard, especially to 100 kilometers an hour, you will have tire slipping in first, second gear, third gear perhaps, especially with a stage 1 tune. Which you won't have with the Tesla Model S. It will just accelerate even in wet condition because it has so much traction, and the computers are calculating all the time to put the traction to the wheel that has the most traction. So that's perfect in that sense. But the Suzuki Swift Sport brings you a little bit more drama, and especially at higher speeds, then the benefits of an electric engine are waning off a little bit more. And then it might be quite a competitor to it because it has good torque across the line. So a tuned stage 1 Suzuki Swift Sport Hybrid might have about 300 Nm of torque. But mind you, it weighs far less than half of the weight of a Tesla Model S. So Tesla Model S needs to have about 600, 700 Newton meters of torque to deal with it with the same torque to weight. So it gives you quite a good impression of that even this small car can be very interesting for you to consider if you are a performance enthusiast lover. And the other thing is, because it's so flickable and you will have a lot of fun with it, this is what driving is about. It's not about ultimate speed, but the experience that you get. And also because it costs roughly a quarter of the price, you will have that benefit. So even if it breaks, it is not costing you that much as you would compare that if you would break a Tesla Model S. Also, service intervals would be cheaper. Tesla Model S has very cheap service intervals for the performance at stake, but still it would be cheaper. The other thing around is that you also have a car that is easier, still easier in this time and place, to cover big distances with. And why is that? Because you can fill it up in almost like 5 minutes tops, if you don't have to wait in a keg before you're able to put fuel in your tank. So it also has a very big benefit there. Tesla Model S you can charge every day, so you can start with a full tank. Of course, this is a benefit. But if you drive it a little bit harder, you will get more on a full tank with the Suzuki Swift Sport Hybrid as compared to the Tesla Model S. If you would pamper the Tesla Model S and you would pamper the Suzuki Swift Sport Hybrid, so you drive it about 110 kilometers an hour top, and you're not accelerating hard, then it might be on par. I think still the Suzuki Swift Sport Hybrid will tip it. I'll tip its head to it. But it could very well be that Tesla Model S is 110 kilometers an hour tops, and very gentle feet would do 700 kilometers on a fuel tank. But you can drive the Suzuki Swift Sport completely empty and would not be detrimental. But if you deplete the battery all the time, or a lot of time with the Tesla Model S, you will also decrease the capacity. So even there, it's not that much of a difference. Yeah, I think those are the big things to consider. Hope you liked this short video. It's almost 70 minutes long now. It is 70 minutes long, so I try to give you a thorough understanding. Hope you like it. Found a car out.